Tonight on the MTN News, on the way up.
So we got a hit of about 70%, and now it's even, more.
He's getting a tax deduction that was meant for family farms and ranches to be passed on. I think it's totally improper that he's using it.
Property taxes skyrocketing across Montana for many residents, but there's one notable exception, the governor. Plus, cracking the market.
It's just scary because there's not enough time, not enough money.
As home values increase around the Treasure State, we look at what it means for buyers and sellers in Billings. And in charge.
Every state in the country really right now is having issues with hiring people, and we're not immune to that.
There's new leadership at the top of the Montana Highway Patrol, and he comes in with some lofty goals in mind. The MTN 10 o'clock news starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday night. I'm Russ Riesinger. Property taxes are on the rise across Montana, forcing some Montanans into a tough decision: pay the bill or sell their properties. It all started following the pandemic as real estate prices soared and Montana leaders failed to turn the dial back on rising taxes. Tonight, our Andrea Lutz investigates the matter, introducing you to a Bozeman family who lives right next door to the governor and is living this reality.
It's been a full circle journey.
So here's the driveway, and then this is the main road.
For Deborah Newville.
I would say I am 3.
A Montanan returning home to the place she grew up.
So this is the home that we're sitting in.
Here to this property on Manley Road in the Gallatin Valley.
My dad did some of the electrical, and, of course, some of the outlets don't work. My parents ended up buying this property in '68.
As a child, she reveled in its beauty.
Well,
but now,
it does make me sad.
She faces an ugly reality.
It threw me such a curveball, yeah.
This 10-acre, 2,500 square foot property with its retro green countertops, now valued at over $2 million, saw a 70% property tax increase.
So approximately $1,000 a month is going out for property taxes.
Deborah says she couldn't believe it, so she started asking questions.
Our immediate neighbor next door, which happens to be the governor, their taxes seem to kind of just go up a bit.
The governor's 11-acre, 4,400 square foot property saw an increase of only 19%. The reason, an agriculture exemption. Manley Road is home to longtime family farms. However, the Newvilles say that's changed. Now everywhere you look, mansions.
We own 10 that's mainly a cottonwood forest. We're paying more than he is. He's not a farmer. He's a land developer and speculator who's using that ag exemption improperly to not pay taxes on it.
And it seems the governor's Helena neighbors are paying more in property taxes too. After looking at public tax documents of more than 40 homes that surround Greg Gianforte's home on 618 Madison Avenue, all but a few saw sizable increases, while the governor's property decreased by 7%. According to the Department of Revenue, the reason? The governor's house was reappraised at a higher value, but still by less than his neighbors. Assessed at $770,000, but currently on the market for $2 million.
Every action item that was taken by the legislature, by the governor on taxes was all tax cuts.
Kyle Schmock with the Senate Republican says Montana's property tax issue is complicated. So if Montanans are looking for blame, he says it's not with the governor.
Almost all property tax in Montana goes to paying for 3 things: county government, city government, and schools.
I do not believe, in my heart of hearts, that Governor Gianforte tried to get a special deal and got it.
Brad Molnar of Laurel is also a Senate Republican. While he doesn't believe Gianforte's been unethical, he says state leaders, including the governor, could have prevented the property tax increases.
The Department of Revenue came in and said, you're going to be hit with some really high property tax increases. If you don't want to do that, what we have done historically is change the multiplier and lower the impact. Nobody did it.
We repeatedly reached out to the governor, hoping to sit down and have him explain the disparities over his Helena mansion. but he declined. But a spokesperson said through email there's more to the story regarding the Newvilles, saying the governor delivered historic property tax relief for Montanans who live here, not for those who live out of state or those with second and third homes, pointing to how the Newvilles still own a home in Portland, Oregon. But the Newvilles don't buy it.
Again, when somebody maybe is playing the system a little bit.
You got real farmers that produce food for people to eat, and then you got your tax deduction farmers.
86.
Deborah's dad nurtured this property for his family for years.
He made it through the pandemic.
She's always intended on keeping the property.
To have something special like this to stay within a family.
But now,
I don't know, it's a question mark. We'll see how it goes.
Holding out for a more permanent tax solution.
He really thought, I think we could handle it.
In Bozeman, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Now, the governor's team never gave a clear answer on how much farmland Gianforte owns, but we are told it rotates between irrigated barley and alfalfa. Ag exemptions work like this. In Montana, land over 160 acres automatically gets an agriculture designation. However, if your parcel is less than 20, you need to meet certain criteria. One way is to produce $1,500 of ag product, which, if documented, can be consumed by people or livestock. Tax expert Josh Slotnick from Missoula says ag exemptions can help many family farms.
No one is abusing this. I believe the rules need to be updated. All the people I know who are involved in agriculture are playing by the rules. People I know who pay taxes play by the rules. These rules were written a long time ago, and the rules related to ag land, I believe, need an update, specifically around small-scale ag in western Montana, where saying you can make $1,500 is a pretty low bar.
The Newvilles asked the Department of Revenue about how they could get an ag exemption, but determined the cost to start up would be too high and they'd have to clear out those charming cottonwood trees, which they say serve as a natural corridor for wildlife. Governor Gianforte admits the property taxes are too high and need to be reined in, so he launched a bipartisan tax task force. That group is tasked with finding long-term solutions, trying to find ways to ensure that every child has a quality education and keeping vulnerable Montanans in their homes. The Gianforte spokesperson says one way is through the creation of a homestead exemption, ensuring out-of-staters pay their fair share to fund our schools, law enforcement, roads, and bridges. The governor specifically said a sales tax will not be considered as a solution. Meanwhile, many communities in Montana already have a resort tax.
Jump right in with the Stockman Bank weather cam and talk about the weather for the day. Very comfortable, 6 degrees above the seasonal average by the time we got into the afternoon, even though the morning was a little on the cool side. The winds significantly lower than they were yesterday. And right now we've got one of the top 10 driest winters as far as snowfall goes, but we might add to that going into next week. 50s to 60s for the daytime highs today, so a little bit warmer than average overall. And all these plus signs in front of the numbers tonight show we're warmer than we were at the same time yesterday. Forecast coming up.
A Sydney man gets a second chance after the Montana Supreme Court overturned his homicide conviction. A jury convicted Kyle Severson in the 2019 death of Tyler Hayden. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. The Daily Montanan reports the ruling was reversed because of the way evidence was handled and hid at trial. Attorneys say Severson was actually in fear of Hayden, who acted violently. In court, Severson admitted he shot Hayden out of self-defense, protecting his girlfriend and child. That case will now be sent back for a new trial. There's a new man in charge of the Montana Highway Patrol. Colonel Kurt Sager, with 21 years of service to the agency, was tabbed to take over for former Colonel Steve Lavin, and he's hitting the ground running, looking to tackle a number of issues currently faced by the department, from staffing shortages to trooper safety to the dangers behind fentanyl. Tonight, our David J. hears from Sager for the first time since his appointment.
The colonel for the Montana Highway Patrol came to Billings on Thursday. He's touring the state, and he talked about some of the challenges for troopers.
All of our troopers on the road will encounter people that are, engaged in whatever criminal activity, and sometimes it is drugs, sometimes it's human trafficking. People running drugs, whether it be meth or fentanyl or any other number of drugs, and a lot of times with that, we run into weapons and other criminal activity.
Colonel Kurt Sager says much of the drug activity is around fentanyl. His boss, Attorney General Austin Knudsen, announced last week that in Montana in 2023, dosage units of fentanyl have increased 20,000% compared with 2019.
I'm sure a lot of it's tied to cartels shipped in from elsewhere, either coming up from Mexico or wherever. So we are seeing a lot of our drugs coming from different areas, and mostly it's probably coming up from the south.
Another issue he will look to solve on his watch, a staffing shortage. He says the Montana Highway Patrol employs more than 260, down about 10%.
We want to make sure that we're hiring people with the highest levels of integrity, that are law-abiding citizens that want to go protect and serve, and that have the qualities to be a law enforcement officer.
Colonel Sager has been the top man at the Montana Highway Patrol for almost 2 weeks. He started as a trooper 21 years ago in Circle, and most recently he played a major role in opening the Highway Patrol's new facility in Boulder.
You don't do the job for kudos. If you did, you'd have a very short career.
And thanks to his roots, Sager has a great appreciation for all troopers, knowing just how dangerous a job it can be.
We have to have a service mentality. If you don't, the job there's not enough other things to draw somebody to it if you don't want to serve. You do it to serve people and to help those that are in need and to protect Montana citizens and make the state a better place for your family to live. And, law enforcement is a huge key to that, to making a healthy community and making it a place that you can raise a family.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
O.J. Simpson, the legendary football player made infamous during a sensational murder trial, has died. In a statement on Simpson's social media accounts, his family says he succumbed to his battle with cancer. As a star running back at USC, Simpson won the Heisman Trophy in 1968, played 11 seasons in the NFL, earning the nickname Juice. He then launched a successful career as a sports broadcaster and actor before it all came crumbling down. In June of 1995, millions watched police chase Simpson in his white Bronco on LA's freeways after being accused of killing his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and a friend, Ron Goldman. The trial became a global television event before a jury found him not guilty, but he was found liable and ordered to pay millions in damages. Then in 2008, he landed in prison for 9 years after he was convicted of armed robbery and other felonies after a confrontation with sports memorabilia dealers. O.J. Simpson was 76 years old. Well, still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, supply and demand. Home prices continue to climb in Billings with the market more competitive than ever. We'll break down the latest numbers next. And later, from the ground up, construction will soon begin on a new medical school for MSUB students. We'll take you to the groundbreaking in just a bit.